Alright, what's going on guys? It's Almond. Welcome back to another Wizard101 video. In today's video, we're going to be looking at some of the gear that is coming into Wizard101 with the Wallaru update, right? Of course, I assume that there is going to be some other set, like for example, of course, we're still waiting on the raid setup to be 170. We're still waiting on some other stuff. And players are apparently thinking that there might be another setup due to the fact that you can, for some reason, you can dye this robe and it looks oddly different. So some players are speculating that there might actually be another setup of gear that we don't know about, because this robe is the setup that's for the dream setup, but there is another one that lets you dye it. It just lets you dye the robe for some reason to another set, which I'm not too sure about if there's actually going to be another set and how drastic that's going to be. But at first, we're just going to look at the gear. Keep in mind, all this gear is quote-unquote broken. You'll see what I mean. And we'll talk about it. So if you do enjoy this type of content, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that type of stuff. And yeah, let's talk about some of the gear, right? So if we go to Hephaestus' test shop, we can go to equipment and we can look at all the gear, right? We got the Dream Stalker gear and the Dream Reaver gear, right? So they're all dream themed, right? And they all have different names corresponding to the school. So if you're fire, it's going to be Freevid, I don't know how to pronounce that, and then ice is going to be cruel, storm is fierce, myth is fabled, life is bold, death is fell, and balance is deft. I don't know if I'm pronouncing some of these words right. Keep that in mind. But those are like the insight on how the names are going to be. Now the actual set on what it's going to look at, right? It's going to look like this, right? This is the full complete set, right? And at the moment you are able to dye some of the pieces, but apparently it'll only let me do the robe, so keep that in mind. But if we're just looking at the set that's in test realm at the moment, this is the complete set of the dream set, right? Dream Stalker, Dream Reaver, etc., right? But when it comes to the stats, they are actually broken. Now if we're comparing this gear to, for example, Aeon, you can easily see the difference with these pieces. There's no difference, they're exactly the same, other than the resist is in the wrong spot. Other than that, you can see there's really no difference. But on top of that, we are getting item cards on this gear, right? So there is item cards on this gear, so keep that in mind. I don't know if that is intentional, but I honestly like the idea of having item cards on gear again, right? I missed having item cards on gear, and this is actually pretty nice if I do have to say so myself, right? Like if we're looking at the the dream reaver set, this gives you a blade, right? This is another blade that you're getting for free, and I really like that. Not having to, like, for example, choose a specific amulet, right? Even the amulets are, we'll get to that, but it's just nice having another blade. I think it gives us some options, right? Gives us really good setups, for blade stacking setups or something like that for certain bosses without having to use treasure cards, etc. Honestly, I love it. I love it whenever they do stuff like this. It just makes things very unique in that sort of aspect. The boots also have an item card. It's a trap or a shield, depending on your dual school. So for example, ice got death, fire got myth, like the main dual school that you are like predominant with. But yes, there is a trap, an aura, and you also get an ice shield, depending. So you get like so if ice gets like storm or etc. moving forward. But the aura is like the unique one. It's not like a 6-round aura, it's only 4-round. But keep in mind, I don't know if all this is permanent, right? But if it is, amazing, right? Amazing of the item cards. Of course, the stats we have to keep in mind, it's just Aeon gear, it's just Eternal gear. They need to be adjusted. It's not intentional. Apparently that is a bug. So take everything with the stats with a grain of salt at the moment, but I still want to cover what it is right now in test round. So those are the hat, robe, boots, and wands. I think the main just coverage is the item cards. I do like the robe that gives a blade though, 100%. The aura and the shields, it's very niche to me, but I can see PvP players wanting those because it's more item cards that they can use in their matchups. But the trap, I guess it is useful technically, but I can get a trap on like on an amulet or something like that. But depending on your setup, this fire trap could be useful for like a trap stack boss and you need multiple traps, depending on the cheats, of course, etc. Still very good in that regard, but I think the blade is more favorable in my opinion. But it's just opinion based at the moment, right? Now the wands are unique as well, stat wise at least. Now stats, we don't know if these are permanent, of course, right? It's tough to tell at the moment because we don't know what is intentional, what is not, right? We just got a vivid answer saying the stats are not correct, right? But if we're comparing the Dream Reaver and the Dream Boomerang or Dream Stalker Boomerang, from what it seems like, the Dream Reaver is going to be good for its universal damage, and then the Dream Stalker is going to be useful for its universal pierce, right? But if you are trying to go for like predominant for your main school, Dream Reaver is of course going to be like your main one that you want. And on top of that, you get a tier socket, which is quite interesting. The Reaver is going to give you more HP if you don't mind losing out on crit, right? You do lose a little bit of damage, so keep that in mind. You don't have this universal damage that this one has, but you do get a square socket and you are getting universal pierce. But still, the square socket is going to give you like 500 HP in return, because if we go back to the jewels, if you guys haven't, definitely check out the jewel video. We're gonna have jewels that give like 600 HP on square sockets, which is crazy even thinking about. So when it comes to equipment, I can see some of this stuff being really good. I'm still gonna be favoring the Dream Reaver because damage, right? And I'm getting pierced for my specific school versus dual school. Dual schooling, I can see it being varied between these, right? But I still think the 17 damage is going to be better universally, in my opinion. But like I said, subject change, but aesthetically it looks nice. Cast animation, I've seen it a couple times. You just throw the boomerang and it comes back to you, which is pretty unique in itself. Item cards, these item cards are not going to be useful in PvE in any sort of way, in my opinion. Of course, wand hits are always going to be there, but these item cards are not useful. It's very niche, but PvP players can have some tech with this, but PvE, you're not going to touch these. Same thing on the other wand. I guess if you want to have a quench, sure, but if you're already using this on a fire, right, you're gonna get your own school dispel. There's no use, because hey, you already have it trained. Of course, you can go train it from the secret trainer. You can, it's free. Like there's no complaint about the cards. Now the Athames and Rings I kind of already covered in a separate video, but yes, the Athames and Rings have universal damage and it's pretty unique. The jewels are like flip-flopped. The jewels are all over the place, but I kind of want to wait on an official gear review whenever they patch everything and make it look better. But the amulets, we can just talk about the circle socket one, right? To me, this is just wild even thinking about this. Without you realizing, this is an upgrade to the Shane Von Shane amulets from Darkmoor, because of the fact you get access to a circle socket on an amulet. And now if you think about it, you can socket on 6 pierce for your school. That is wild. You can literally have 6 pierce, 2 more pierce than what like the Shane amulets are, I believe. I think the Shane amulets are 4. You have 2 more pierce, right? And you're getting a triangle socket as well. I mean, you are losing like the square sockets, right? So you are losing like almost 1,000 HP, but at like high level play for PvE, like just farming stuff or whatever, the pierce and damage is wild. Like even if you don't care about pierce, let's say your pierce is fine, you're like, I don't need pierce, you can still socket 10% damage on this. To me, that is crazy. Triangle socket, of course, you got your pips, you got your accuracy if you're missing that. This is going to be like the slot where like the triangle socket is going to be more of like a thing where like, hey, maybe I'm just missing a certain stat, right? Of course, if you already have perfect accuracy, perfect pips, honestly, you probably, if I had to say so, you have the option of doing pip conserve, arch mastery, or maybe shadow pips. Honestly, none of those are that intriguing to me. The only thing I can see maybe socketing, if you already have perfect pips and perfect accuracy, is going to be arch mastery in my opinion. But honestly, it's not bad having more accuracy due to the fact that, like, hey, what if you get mantled or something like that, right? That's why I'm probably gonna do that instead, right? But hey, maybe you're like, oh, there's some item cards I want to socket on. Maybe there's maybe you care about conserve because you want to, you know, be able to conserve to do multiple other things in PvE. Or maybe arch mastery to get your school pit before everybody else. It's just kind of depending on your thing, right? Me personally, I'm just going to do most likely is going to be accuracy just in case of mantles, but I can see some players putting in arch mastery or pip conserve, just depending on your playstyle, of course, or even an item card. The triangle socket's like giving you a lot of versatile setups moving forward. So to me, this is still crazy. This is literally a Shane Von Shane upgrade in disguise for PvE players. So keep that in mind. This is going to be good because there's no amulets in the game at the moment that have circle sockets other than this one. This is the first circle socket amulet that we have. We'll have to see if the Hunhow upgrades or the Shabab upgrades do have them, but that would be nuts if they do. You're gonna see some crazy setups coming out soon. Definitely. And then yeah, I already talked about the rings, but the rings do have some different sockets. Like the stalker ring, even though it has less damage and you're losing health, and which is kind of weird. Of course, keep it with a grain of salt because these aren't permanent. But the sockets, you're getting 2-tier sockets, which is kind of weird to me. But I have no comment on these. But the amulet, I feel like I should definitely talk about. And now the dex is, you can socket on. I didn't think this would ever happen, right? I would always like wonder, I'm like, dude, when are they gonna add circle sockets to decks? Here it is. So if you look at the stats, like I said, take it with a grain of salt. The decks are literally Aeon, but they have more arch mastery. That's about it. But you do get access to a circle socket, so that's more damage and more pierce depending on your setup. I would always go for, like, me personally, I always go for max damage first, and then whatever I have beyond that is just put it in pierce, right? I feel like damage matters more than pierce, because especially if you're doing turn 1 stuff, like, the damage is just better, right? The pierce is good in certain situations, but what I'm just going to do, like I said, is just farm up multiple things and just socket on different things. So for example, I would have 2 of these decks, one for pierce and one for damage. Problem solved. And whenever I need them, I just swap to the direct one I need. Crazy, right? But hopefully this stays to live realm. I do want to see that socket. Of course, the other deck is just a weakness. They're kind of just eternal decks. I wanted to see, the one thing I do want to see changed on these decks is going to be the myth one, or not the myth one, the balance one. I really think this should get changed, right? Balance has been getting a lot of shaft this like update, in my opinion. Definitely, I really think this D-Lance should not be self only, right? It's already PvP banned, right? You're not going to use this in advanced combat. You're not going to use this in raids or anything like that, or PvP. I really think this D-Lance should be, you can put this on anybody, because at least balance will get some value about behind this deck. Of course, they're already getting that circle socket, but I really think they should change the self-only portion to, hey, and you can put D-Lance on anybody, because you're getting, that's a 35 blade, and you're also getting a 10% pierce blade from that. That is wild to even think about, but yes, you are costing 2 pips, which I think that's fine, right? In return, I'm giving you basically a 45% buff depending on the scenario. It's really good. So please, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I would really like this to be changed to pick a player. And you can still PvP ban it, whatever, but let PvE players that just like regular do questing, whatever, farming key bosses, etc., have some fun with this. Definitely will be unique down the line. But that's all the gear at the moment in the test shop. But like I said, take the, you know, the gear is not finished, right? They put the wrong stats on them, but the look wise, like I said, 10 out of 10. I really like the robe, especially because you literally have a core in the center. You have no heart. You it's just a core. And then with the jewels, of course, that's wild. The rings I've talked about in a separate video. If they do move on with the universal damage, that's going to be crazy. And then sockets on the deck, circle socket on a deck, that is just crazy to think about, honestly. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed me looking at the gear. It looks pretty insane. Like I said, let me know your guys' opinion down below. If you like this look, or maybe whatever this other set is going to be down the line with this unique thing, we just have to wait. But whatever that this model is used for, we'll have to wait and see. But overall, I think the gear looks nice when it comes to aesthetics. Jewels, of course, we're gonna have to wait and see if those are permanent. Stat wise, hopefully the item cards stay, etc. But time will tell whenever we get to see them in basically test realm. Of course, I'm still waiting on the Hunhow upgrades. I'm still waiting on Shababa upgrades so I can look at those, and that will like definitely make up my mind on what gear is going to be like quote unquote meta for PvE, or the best in slot gear for PvE. Definitely whenever Wallaru comes out to live realm, expect a lot of grinding that I'm going to be doing. It's going to be crazy. Yeah, a lot of content for me, right? But like I said, that is it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that type of stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys.